everyone, I'm Claire and this is Adam, and today's video we're going to talk about mental enrichment. So what is mental enrichment? So for me, mental enrichment is getting the dog to use their brain, to use their natural instincts of kind of digging, sniffing, snuffling, lots of foraging, that sort of thing, in kind of constructive ways. So rather than them kind of, creating a hole in your garden, we give them an opportunity to use those natural behaviours in an environment that's kind of supervised and one that, they can happily kind of explore and everything. So Adam's just going to talk about why mental enrichment is so important.
Yeah, so enrichment for dogs is hugely important, because what we normally do is we fix on exercise, physical exercise. And whilst that is good for the dog's physical well-being, we often fall short in providing for the dog's mental well-being as well. So you'll see we've got a whole host of stuff that we're going to talk through today. And what I want you to try and get your heads around is that this isn't stuff to add as enrichment. This is what we're going to try and create as what we class as optimal levels of enrichment. So these things you might find that you're actually using every day or twice a day to provide a fully enriched life for the dog, rather than thinking that this is a bonus for them, because actually this should be something that is standard for dogs. So we've got a whole host of stuff that we're going to talk to you about. Some of them are things that the dogs can go off and do on their own, and they don't need to have too much observation. Other stuff that you might need to supervise with, some things that use their nose, some things that use their tongue, some things that use their brain, but all of the things that will help mentally relax and help mentally enrich your dog to keep a content, happy, well-rounded dog. So we're going to have a nice, easy kind of discussion as we go through things. I think Claire is going to want to start off with lick pads, maybe?
Licky pads, yeah, lick pads. So we've got a selection of licky pads down here. I'm just going to grab the licky, something that we use. So these are the licky pads. They come in all sorts of varieties. We've got a licky mat, like wobble or a bowl. Lots of kind of dimples in here. Noodles getting involved. You can use anything kind of like soft and squishy in here. So liver paste. This is a Kong easy treat. You could use, there's salmon paste, peanut butter, squeezy cheese.
The list is endless. As long as it's dog safe, then you're good to go.
So all we do is just kind of pop a bit on here. So I've just made this really easy for Noodle. You can kind of put it in a lot more, and also to make it kind of a bit more difficult, you could freeze this, and it wouldn't take long. Just pop it in the freezer for 10-20 minutes and then pop it out. I tend to batch prepare my Kongs and my licky mats, so that I've got 20 in the freezer. So if I need to make a call or something is important, someone's turned up and they don't like dogs or something like that, I pop to the freezer, get my kind of prepped stuff out, and then just pop it on the floor, and she's good to go for 20 minutes. So as you can see, she's got the wobble, and the wobble's moving. Lots of different licky mats available. So this is a licky mat buddy. So it's kind of just a silicone piece, and you can get them with different patterns on, and that's different levels of difficulty for the dog. So again, just spread that onto that mat. And everything that we kind of show you is dishwasher proof. So I tend to just kind of chuck it in the dishwasher on like all of the dog stuff together, and it just comes out nice and clean. We've got a harder licky mat here. So if you've got any dogs that are likely to chew, one is you should supervise the dog, but if you go for kind of something a bit more substantial, say this is the licky mat slow-mo. So this is just a bit more substantial, you can't kind of bend it or anything, and it's got different textures. So for the dog, that's really good, and they've got to use different parts of their brains to work out how to get to these things. So I'll just put that down as well. Noodle now thinks it's her birthday, and there's a couple of things with suction pads. So one of these is a licky mat, and one of these is a bone, and they've got suction pads on. And then you either put your like Kong squeezy cheese or anything that stuff in here or on there, and then you stick it on the side of something. So say your dog doesn't particularly like getting washed or its paws washed, you can stick that on the end of the bath. They're busy licking this, and then you can just give their feet a quick wash. These are great, and I've seen groomers use them, those sorts of things.
Use them quite a lot now,
and also you can start working towards kind of potentially clipping your dog's toenails with this. It's not something you would immediately do. It takes some time to build up their positive reinforcement with this. But that's something we can kind of go into another day. But yeah, so there's lots of options. These are all available on either the internet or your local pet shop. And as you can see, Noodle's just thinking this is great. So right, I'll pass you on to Adam for the next thing.
Perfect. So thank you very much. On the subject of using their tongue and kind of tongue dexterity, it's really nice with this sort of stuff because it's really easy for the dogs. Yes, it takes them a little bit of time, but it's easy for the dogs, but it can help loosen up a little bit of tension around the jaw, around the neck, around the chest, around the shoulders. So that brings us on to some more kind of original, kind of familiar, I should say, items. So one of the first things that most people will buy is this one. This is the Kong Classic, and it's kind of like a beehive shape with a hole through the center. And there's a lot of pitfalls when people buy this because they buy it to try and occupy the dog, which is good. That's what we use it for, predominantly anyway. It can be used for a lot of other things. But what we tend to find is that people will pack this thing as tight as they possibly can because they want to try and keep the dog's attention. And whilst it keeps the dog's attention, what you sometimes find is dogs who have a low frustration tolerance get very bored or very irritable because they can't access all the food quickly. And in some cases where you've packed it so tight, they can't access that top bit. So eventually the item becomes redundant and the dogs don't want to play with it. So one of the alternatives, if you've got one of these and the dog doesn't want to play with it, or even if the dog does play with it, help them out a little bit. Instead of packing loads of soft gooey stuff in the top corner, the top kind of 2/3, is just sprinkle some dry pieces of treat in there. High value treat, it's got to be something interesting for the dog. And then with your liver paste or spreadable cheese or peanut butter or whatever, you then just plug the end so that all the dog has to do is go through the plug at the end, get the treats out, and then it can start off with something really easy and then build it up from there. So Noodle is very patiently waiting, so I'm going to give her this now. If you've got a dog who still isn't that bothered about it, then you can spread the cheese or liver paste or whatever around the outside. We're on carpet, so we're not going to do that, and I wouldn't advise you to do that at home. If you are to spread the outside of the item, then use tiles, put it in kitchens or whatever, so that it doesn't kind of mess up the carpet. So I'm just going to place that down. Noodle's just going to access the plug first. And if I then wanted to make that more difficult, I could freeze that. So the little plug at the end becomes frozen. It takes her longer to chew or longer to get out, and then the treats still drop out at random. So that's a good one. But my preference are items like this. There's two different versions that I use with this. One is this one, which is the Kong dental stick, I think. And then the other one that I prefer is the Kong stuffer ball, which is a ball shaped, but still same colour, same company, but with grooves on the outside. And whilst Kong do their own paste, you can use whatever you want. So for the grooves, all you do is very easily, I missed the groove completely there, but never mind. Smear a couple of grooves in, and then put it down and let the dog work through it as well. So again, it keeps their attention, but this is all easily accessible at that point. Again, if the dog isn't that bothered in engaging with something like that, because maybe they've had bad experiences of it in the past, then there's a variety of different other toys that you could use. These kind of snakes are very similar to what we've just used. There's a little groove through the middle, packed out with treats or some paste or something to help the dogs out. And then a really good toy to use is this one, which is the West Paw, or a company called West Paw. So this one is the Zogo Flex, and basically it's open at the top, it's got a hole in the side, and you can put paste in there, you can put treats in there. Once it hits the floor, the dog rolls it around on the floor, treats drop out at random, and it's just something interesting for the dogs to work with. And you may have already noticed these ones, which are same as the classic, but the black, they're for really strong chewers, so dogs who just rip things apart. These are quite a lot tougher than the red counterpart that we've been using previously as well. Now we could spend all day on just Kongs, but we're not going to, or even familiar items, but hopefully you get an idea as to just how many different varieties they are. And like we were saying previously, this isn't something that you add to their environment to try and give them a bit of a bonus or a little bit of a, you know, bit of something extra. This is something that really should be a constant thing throughout the dog's daily routine or weekly activities as well. So I'll hand you back over to Claire and move on to the next exercise.
So the next thing I'm going to talk about is some puzzle toys. So this is just a selection that we've got. Like, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of products on the market. What you want to do is generally the dog will do this independently, kind of without you. But I would be kind of I wouldn't leave the toys and then, you know, leave the house for 3 hours. It's something that you just want to go back and check that, you know, yeah, they're all right and they haven't, you know, damaged it or chewed anything. So lots and lots of different options. So the first one I'm going to talk about is a company called Canine Connectables. And actually they created this because their dog destroyed their house. So they used this toy as a way of kind of mentally engaging their dog and mentally tiring out the dog. And as a result, the dog stopped destroying the house. So kind of a very good process.
Absolutely.
So you get one kind of centerpiece, which is this pink centerpiece here, and then you buy kind of additions onto them. So you can also get different levels. So if you look here, there are kind of like ridges, and depending on how far you push these down on them depends on how difficult it is. So the further down, the harder it is for the dog to get off. They're also good, just like using the Kong paste or the liver paste or anything, the squeezy cheese. They've got kind of really good ridges that you can kind of pop that in as well, freeze it. But all you want to be doing is chucking a few pieces in here, popping this on top, and then placing it down to the dog. And it's really good for proprioception as well, because they won't just get that off with their mouth. They kind of have to manipulate it with their paws. They have to manipulate it with their paws, possibly kind of, I've seen dogs throw it downstairs as a way of kind of getting things to brain. And so it gets them really working their brain. So great toy, great company, really nice kind of something kind of to keep them occupied. Then we've also got a couple of dispensing balls. So this one's just like a dice, pop some treats in here, and as they kind of move the ball around, it spits treats out. So we've got a couple of other options that are available. So kind of these balls, again, you pop them in, they kind of roll them about on the floor, and then the treats pop out. It is worth noting that it's better to use hardest treats for these rather than the soft treats, because the soft treats just kind of don't really come out and they get a bit mushed up. So something nice and hard for them. Then we've got a couple of wobblers. So here you add the treats into these and they're weighted. So as the dog pushes, it will then come back. So it's for them to manipulate it to get the food out. This one's a Kong wobbler. You just unscrew it and then pop that in. This bottom piece is weighted.
I've got some little bits. Oh no, I haven't. Hang on, I'll grab a couple of bits.
So just pop some in here. You can see Noodle's quite interested.
Should be small enough.
Right, so then you just screw that back on, and then I'll just pop that down and let Noodle flick that around the room a bit. The only thing I would say about certainly the wobblers and things like that is that the dogs can become frustrated with them if they're not getting food out, or perhaps the food has gone and they haven't realised it. So it's something that you although they do it independently, you kind of want to be around to say enough when it's empty, or when they've when they've got too much frustration going on. So and then lastly, just a couple of other games. This one's from a company called Active Hound, and it just involves the dog flipping up these kind of paddles, and then you've got holes in here that they kind of have to manipulate all the way around to try and get to the treats. And then finally, this little activity centre here is you put the treats in these little kind of plastic tubes, and the dog needs to knock them, and then the treats come out. I think this one is for a dog who's kind of a bit more advanced. and something that kind of really will challenge their brain. Some dogs will find this really easy, some dogs won't.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to gauge whether your dog, how much your dog can achieve, and you just don't want them to get frustrated by this.
Yeah.
But there are lots of options, lots to do, and just a little activity like this really engages their brain, tires them out, and gives them an awful lot when it takes us very little to prepare it for them.
Absolutely.
So next, Adam, we're going to go on to a bit of slow feeders.
Yeah, let's give it a shot. So the slow feeders are good for dogs that wolf their food down, but it's still worth being mindful not to cause frustration, because food is it's a very primal thing. Food is it's what you need for survival. So making that food that they would get too difficult can sometimes cause a little bit of stress, frustration, or anxiety. So we want to be mindful of that. So you've got options of using the food or puzzle feeders as slowing down the dog for food, or you can add stuff in there that just makes it a little bit more enriching. So a few different options, but the two most common ones that you'll probably find in the shops are this green kind of oval shape with little hills and hollows in there. Now, although this one's a large for the larger dogs, I actually prefer the medium one. It's a smaller version because the peaks are slightly smaller, so the dog can actually get their nose in. So for this one, if you're using this for the dog's food, then I would always start by making it really easy. You'll see it's kind of like a dome shape, but you'll see around the outside, the peaks are slightly smaller. So what you would work on is your food goes kind of in those peaks to start with, a smaller bit, and then you let the dogs work through it from there. Now, although this was for kind of food, you can actually, what we've done there is just put treats in it, and again, that could be something that you use as an enrichment activity for the dog. And it's fairly, certainly self-paced, and it's pretty much kind of unsupervised. You can get on and do something while that's down. It's quite a strong material as well. Other one that you're going to likely see are things like the maze feeders. There's a spiral, there's a few kind of ones with kind of holes in them that the dog has to pick food out of as well. And again, same thing is that if you haven't got any need to slow the dog down in food terms, then you could use treats in there. You could even smear some of the paste or spreadable cheese or something like that in there and let the dog just work through it as well. That's a fun exercise for the dogs to work on. But again, if you've got a dog that is really overly obsessed with food and they wolf their food down, then just be mindful as to how you're doing that, and think about it this way: if this was you and you were extremely hungry but you had to problem solve before you got fed, then that becomes more frustrating at that point. So we just want to make sure that we're not adding too much frustration to this exercise. But puzzle feeders on the whole largely are really good ideas for or slow feeders I should say. They're good to slow the dogs down, and they're good just to give the dog that little bit of mental enrichment, but again, be very mindful that you aren't inadvertently frustrating the dog in the short term as well. Nothing in there, I'm afraid, girl. Anything else you want to add to that one, Claire?
No, that's great. I'm just going to go on to a snuffle rug. So we've got a couple here, lots and lots of different colours and designs and sizes, but all they are is a plastic mat with lots and lots of tied fleece inside, inside it. And what you want to do is to start building up the interest, just pop it down on the floor and make it really easy for them. So just put some treats around the edge so they don't have to actually kind of work very hard for it. So Noodle's used this before, so we can kind of go through this pretty quickly. Then you just add some on the top so that she can just pick it up off the top. And the reason this is good is that it really encourages them to use their nose to find these treats, therefore kind of really tapping into that foraging kind of natural behaviour. And, you know, a sniffing behaviour is a real mentally tiring exercise. So as she's picked up those treats off them, I'm just going to literally hide them in the material now. So I'm picking into the material, really hiding that, and then she's got to go use her nose, use her paws to try and get to them. So I find these particularly useful when we go training. It enables me to get Noodle into the hall or kind of wherever we're training, pop this down, get her to kind of sniff around, use this as just a bit of a distraction, because obviously it's a busy time when everyone gets in the hall before you start training, and also it gives her a break after we've done a bit of training and you just need like a 5-minute break,
Yeah.
pop that down, give her an opportunity to have a little snuffle about, and she just loved it, so it's great. Anything you want to add about that?
No, that's pretty much it. There's no kind of limit on the amount of times that you use any of these really, but certainly the snuffer rugs, I rely on the snuffer rugs quite a lot because they're easy to use. You can put them down at a moment's notice, you can put as much food in as you want, and as Claire's already said, they're really adaptable. You can carry small pieces around. I think there's actually a ball there somewhere as well, which I think Claire's probably going to talk on a bit later, but yeah, really versatile item. One of my kind of go-to ones, I think, for enrichment.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. This brings us on to, which is the Buster activity mat. So, Buster activity mat is a big canvas base with loads of little poppers. Now, first time I heard that, I thought that's not going to be very strong at all for a dog. However, it's been product tested plenty by Finn, who's a really hard-mouthed shepherd, and Noodle. This is Noodles, and she's had this for ages, and it's still in really good shape. So it comes in a little neat bag, so you can pack it away, undo it, and you can take it away with you really easily as well. And I don't want it all to fall apart, so I'm just going to bring it out fairly steady, and we're just going to roll it out on the floor. So you'll see the bases there, and you also get loads of little canvas additions. And the idea is that each of these things that you stick onto the canvas have different levels of difficulty. So you buy the kit, it comes with 3 pieces, I think. But each of those 3 pieces has maybe 3 or 4 levels of difficulty that the dog can work on. So it's a very adaptable toy, and it's got a lot of length in terms of the usage of that as well. So you've got different things. First one we'll start to work on is just the envelope. So this envelope has got a few varying degrees of difficulty. So if this was stuck to the mat, I would put a piece of food there, Noodle would take the food. In fact, let's try and stick it down so we can show you what it looks like. We're running out of space a bit here, but... So, first piece is fairly easy. I just drop the food and just let her start to work through it. And you would practice this a few times over. We're just going to rush through it a little bit to show you. But, throw that bit over there. And the next piece goes in the fold. So she has to open up the item to get her nose in. And then the next item that I might put in would go in, and then that might just fold over, so she not only has to open the flap, but then she has to get her nose in. And as you can see, that scratching doesn't affect it at all. It's a really quite robust item. And then the next stage up might be that I hide the treat in, then pull that over, and then I'll just put that little wood block in so it stops that wrap from opening. So what she's got to do is then try and pull that out, and then she's got to try and open the flap up, then she's got to get her nose in and then get the food. So you can kind of see the value in just one item has loads of different degrees of difficulty. Nice work. And this goes the same for all of the items. I think you can get up to about 15 different items that you can purchase and stick on. But like you see, she's scratching it. It's really strong. It's not popping out. And this is something that I really like because it packs away really neatly. You can pretty much take this wherever you want. And the length of activity you've got on this is really nice. I use this quite a lot. I think it's a really good tool. Any additions?
No, I just think it's fantastic. And you can get different difficulties in terms of the actual stick-ons that you get. So some are more difficult than others.
Yeah.
And there are so many options. But yeah, it's just a really great little thing. And the fact that you can kind of pack it away, just pop it, under the sofa or something, it's fantastic. So lastly, we're just going to go over a couple of kind of fleece toys that I've got. So there's a company called Jack's Wardrobe, all on the internet, and she provides lots of different kind of enrichment games, kind of toys. So the first one is like Snacker Roll. So there's sections here for each bit of fleece. All you want to do is pop that, several pieces of fleece out, pop a little bit of a treat inside the fleece, wrap it up, pop it in there, do that kind of in a couple of these, then pop it down and let the dog kind of forage for it. So they've got to use their nose to find out which bits have got, food in. But Noodle also likes just pulling them all out. It's that kind of, it's a natural behaviour that they kind of want to
Yeah, like
dissect
yeah.
things. But this is in a safe manner and one where, you know, it's not going to cause any damage to your property or anything like that. So I encourage this behaviour because it tends to keep her out of trouble in the house and things like that. So there's this activity. Then we've got a snuffle ball, so similar to the snuffle rug, just a ball. So we hide the treats inside the ball, and then Noodle's got to snuffle them and then roll the ball around to try and get them. Then we've also got a variation on a snuffle rug. So this is just a piece of material with lots of hoops. So you hide the treats in the hoops, and then they've got to kind of get their nose in and kind of give it a real good snuffle to try and get the treats out. Then we've also got this snail.
I love this game.
And yeah, this is a great little thing. And Noodle designed my snail with one eye because she decided that she didn't want a two-eyed snail. So here you've just got little pockets in here. So you pop a few treats in there. So the further down you go, the harder it is for them to get them because the pockets are smaller. So you just wrap that up like so. Like that. And then you pop it back onto here like so. Pop it down and let Noodle destroy it. So she won't really destroy it. I don't mean it like that. I just mean kind of dissect it, where she kind of pulls everything out and tries to get her nose into the areas where the food is. And then lastly, we've just got kind of a design around a holy ball. So most of you have probably got a holy ball, just like this. But there's a piece of material in which you can't pull out, with lots and lots of kind of bits that come out like so. All you want to do is pop a treat into them and then just roll it all up like so, and then pop it in. So this isn't a, you know, you can't just truck it on the floor and hope that, you know, you've got to prepare it. But if you do kind of the whole section and then they've got to kind of pull it out and dissect it and roll it around, it's just a fantastic game that they can play. So I'll just pop that down as well. So that kind of covers that kind of toys. There are obviously lots of options. You just want to make sure that they're safe for the dog. Yeah, this is just a sample. You just want to make sure that they're safe for the dogs and none of the materials are toxic. I guess with the fleece you can then just kind of, and the snuffle rugs, you can pop it straight in the washing machine after you're done, and all the Kongs you can stick in the dishwasher. So in terms of kind of safety and cleanliness, you know, easily clean, easily reusable, and will last for a very long time.